Welcome to our fifth lecture on the Zohar. Thank you so much for participating and for joining me. Today we will continue our study of the introduction to the Zohar with what is often called chapter 5 of the Zohar. The last one, chapter 4, we learned of the deeper meaning of the terms mi and ma. Mi was a reference to the spiritual element of God, who is the creator himself, the one who is preceded the creation of the universe. And then Ma is the aspect of God that created the world that we see around us. And in chapter 4, we learned that the aspect of me is included and subsumed within the Ma, within the creation that we see, so that when we encounter things around us in this world, we can access to some extent the holiness of God that is contained within this world, so that there is a me, there is a who, there is a godliness that is contained within the world around us. There is a spirituality that is enveloped within the physicality. So we're going to continue on that theme a little deeper in chapter 5 with Omar Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon continued to speak. Remember Rabbi Shimon here, the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the traditional author of the Zohar, is responding to his son Rabbi Elazar, and he's continuing to speak. And he says, Al do shemaya v'chelihon b'ma ispirihu. The heavens and their hosts, meaning the stars, the heavenly beings that we see. These are things that we see, that we can sense with our own physical senses, with the senses of our sight, etc. They were created with ma, right? Remember, as we said, the ma refers to the what, refers to the things that we can see and experience. Tichsiv, as it says, ki ere shomecha maaseh etzba osecha, because I can see your heavens, the creations of your fingers, so to speak. This is a verse from Psalms 8. These are things that we can see. That is ma. Uksiv, and it also says ma adir shimcha. This is also from Tehillim, from Psalms. How great is your name? This is in the same psalm as we said before. B'chol haaretz, in the entire land, asher tinahodcha al hashamayim, that your majesty is, you have placed your majesty, right, al hashamayim, above the heavens. Al hashamayim ihu l'salka bishma, right? In what way are you above the heavens? You are above the heavens in the sense that your name, the me, that is that which we can only say by name, but it's not an entity that we can identify. It's not an entity that we can define or sense. It is a me, right? That is above the heavens. Begin devara nahora linahore, because God created. Literally, this means a light for a light, which is like saying a ma, inside, within which the me can reside. So there's the light, which was that pinpoint of light that God created, which we mentioned in the last lecture, in order to create the world. But he created a light that can accept that light. There was a ma within which the me can be a receptacle. There is a physical universe within which the essence of God can be somehow realized, somehow sensed, not physically sensed, but spiritually sensed within the world the physical world that we can see. Each one became dressed one within the other. The spirituality became dressed within the physical world. This is, of course, one of the most important themes of the Zohar and of mysticism in general, and that is that within the physical world that we see us, there is a spirituality that is enveloped within it, that is contained within it, and is part and parcel of it. V'solik b'shma ilah, and he came with that name from the heavens into the world below us. And that's what it means. Bereshis bara Elokim. In the beginning, God created. Elokim is the remember we said is a contraction of the words Elah, meaning these, the creations, and me, Mem Yud Ma. It's through these that the me created that which we see around us, which is the Ma. Do Elohim Ilah, that is the higher God. Hama lo haviyachi v'lo espene, because Ma, right, was not in this manner, right? Ma, right, nor was it built, right, in any such way. The creator himself was not built, but it is subsumed within that which is built, right? And it is something that's sensed within it. Ela b'shata de ismashchan asvan elaine. But when these letters ele, right, were drawn from above, in other words, because they were created by the above, created by the creator, so drawn from above the heavens, so to speak, into the realm of the world which we see, right? Elaine, in other words, when they were drawn and brought below, Eile mila eile lisata, when these things, these creations were brought from above, where they did not exist, into lisata, the world down here, which does exist. So ve'ima ozifas librota me anha, or menaha, right? The mother gave the daughter her garments, so to speak. So from the godliness, a lower form, a daughter, so to speak, of spirituality, which is contained within this world, was being dressed by the garments of the God above. Here, God is being referred to in the feminine form, right? And we'll see throughout the Zohar and throughout mysticism in general, sometimes God is referred to in a feminine way and sometimes in a masculine way. And we'll go into that as we are exposed to these ideas. But over here, we have this God being referred to as a mother giving birth to a daughter who is being dressed. And of course, when one uses the image of a woman, one is thinking of the beauty of that woman that is subsumed and dressed in a beautiful way, in a way that we look upon it and interact with it, right? Right? And she was adorned with her adornments, right? That's why I refer to beauty. It's not just a mother and a daughter, but the beauty which is associated with the feminine idea, right? Dressed with accoutrements, with jewelry, with so on, things that make her look beautiful. And when is she dressed upon these adornments? What do these adornments mean? When she is being seen. Adornments are nothing when they are not being seen, when they're not being appreciated by something. Something doesn't get dressed up when they can't be seen by something. It's that when they are apprehended by another being, that is when they are seen. Bishat, and who's the one that sees these adornments? Bishata dis chazon kamal dechora. When the males see her, because when men see the woman adorned, they appreciate that beauty. Tichsiv el pnei ha'adon Hashem, as it says, all the men should appear, all the people should appear before the Master God. This is before the revelation at Sinai. Vida ikre adon kamadiat amar, and that is when he is called master. When those that apprehend him see, in this case, her, and appreciate her beauty, those adornments. And what are those adornments? Those adornments are the creation of the world that we see around us. As it says, as we also say, Hine, what do people say when they saw the ark, for example, which was representative of God's presence on earth? In the book of Joshua, chapter 3, the Zohar brings the verse, Hine aron habris adon kol haaretz. Behold, here is the covenant of the ark of the covenant of the master of all the universe. We say, look, we could see it. Kedein nafkas Hashem v'oilas yud. That is when the letter Hey departs. That's when the Ma that we see, the physicality that we see, which is defined by Ma, which has a Hey, when we see it and appreciate its beauty, it flips from a Hey to a Yud. We can see the Me, we see the Hu, we see the godliness within it. Iskashitas b'monei duchura. And almost, if the Zohar almost flips now from that feminine to the masculine, partly because the words Adon, master, is of a masculine form of the Hebrew word. It's Adon, the master, which is in a male form. So the clothing, as we apprehend those clothing and the beauty of the clothing, which he used the feminine archetype for us to see it and feel it, he then says, but then he dresses in such a way that it looks like a male. So God appears to us, even though it's a mother-daughter, he appears to us as a master, which is a male, the Kovleon l'chol dechar b'Yisrael, in order to um to be matched with all of the men of Israel, so that the men shouldn't be thinking of it as a feminine thing, but look upon him as a master, as a masculine thing. Why the Zohar flips from feminine imagery to masculine imagery is not 100% clear. I'm understanding this in a way that the Zohar didn't feel appropriate, saying that we're all looking upon God with that sense of 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 um of desire that one may have for a beautiful woman, for inappropriate reasons. So it flipped. It wanted to use the imagery, but it didn't want to use the imagery. So therefore, it kind of went sort of in between. So we continue. The asvan acharanin, right? But other letters as well, right? Right now, Mashchan lon Yisrael me'ela legabe asarda, right? That were drawn from on high. We said that those letters referred to Ela, the word Ela, right? These things that we can see are being drawn. Now, who is it that's doing the seeing? We just mentioned that's the people of Israel, and we referenced the Sinai, we referenced seeing the ark. When people of Israel encounter God, we are bringing God down into this world. We are seeing through the things that we can see the me that is contained within it. But other letters we also bring down to this place, in other words, to this lower world. As it says, Eila Ezkira, these things I remember. Now, Adkarna bifumai, right? This is from Psalms 42. Adkarna bifumai, I mention with my mouth. What does it mean? Those people, they don't just see and apprehend, but they actively bring the me down, right? The people of Israel actively bring it down. The idea that what we do on here actively brings the presence and brings out the presence of God and increases the presence of God within the physicality of this world is a central theme of Zoharic mysticism, right? And that's what he's telling us now. Adkarna b'fumai, when I mention with my mouth, and I cry. Il Ezker is referring to these things that I remember, and I cry over, and I remember over the good things of the past, and how tragedies that happen when I cry and I pray with my mouth. In this way, I make these things come from on high. I bring more than just Elah, but I bring more and more spirituality down from the upper worlds into the lower worlds. Elohim kigavna delay, right? So that God will then take his form. Elohim, we said, is the name of God, which means the me, the godliness, which is contained with Elah. So the more I sing, the more I cry, the more I engage, the more I serve, the more I bring the godliness down. Uvamai, and how do I do this? B'kol rina, with the sound of song, b'toda, and thanks, hamon chogeg, and tremendous celebration. So through celebration, through happiness, through joy, one brings, we also said before, through crying, through tears, through prayer, all of these things we engage with God and bring godliness down. Through the emotions that we invest in serving and worshiping God, we bring his presence down. And Rabbi Elazar adds another thing. It's not just through emotions, not just through song and prayer and joy and happiness, which are things that are loud, things that we do with our mouths. Amar Rabbi Elazar, shtika dili, for me, my silence, I make a temple above and a temple below, meaning I take the temple that's above, representative of God above, and bring it down into this world through just silence alone, silence, meditation, and so on. I am able to tap in. And certainly mila besela mishtoka betrain. Speaking might be worth one selah, whereas silence is worth two. Meditation is worth even more than that. Mila besela mad amarna vitarna be. The words that cost that are worth a selah are the things that I say, the things that I awaken myself with. Mishtoka b'shtayim, but quiet silence is worth two. Because through my silence, I'm able to build two worlds, the upper world and the lower world, and bring the upper world down here. So Amar Rabbi Shimon then said to his son, Rabbi Elazar, he responded after Rabbi Elazar kind of interjected in the middle of Rabbi Shimon's speech. He continued on to say, Mikanu l'hala shlimu dekra. Let's go and look at the rest of the verse. Let's finish this verse and see what else there is. As it says, Hamotzi b'mispar tziva'am. This is the verse where we said, Ru'u mi bara Eila, that verse in Isaiah 40, which this entire discourse, what we've been studying together so far in the Zohar, see who has created these, right? What's the rest of it? The rest continues, Hamotzi b'mispar tziva'am. God takes out in many numbers all of the hosts of the heavens, right? The Chulam Shemos Yikra, he calls them all that by different names. I'll finish reading the verse for you. Meirov onim v'ametz koach, because he has so much strength and so much power. Ish lo nehedar, he does not forget any single one of the great hosts of the heavens. So the rest of the verse goes, and let back to the Zohar. God takes out with numbers. In other words, in the many numbers, he takes out them because there's just so many stars. It's countless. There are two levels, right, which one needs to understand. We have to differentiate. God is bringing things out. There are two levels. We've already mentioned those two. That's the ma and the mi, right? Da ilaha v'da tata. One is above and one is below. He said the mi above and ma below. Da ilaha rashim v'amar hamotzi b'mispar tzva'am. This is what it means when it says, right? God takes out in many numbers tzva'am. Hamotzi hahud ishtemoda v'les kavosei. What this means is he brings out, right, that which is which is known, but there is nothing like it. And he's going to explain a little more what it means. Kigavna da, in a similar way, we say the term hamotzi lechem min haaretz, that God is the one who brings bread out from the earth. Right? Hamotzi, what does it mean, hamotzi? We don't see bread when we see wheat growing, but God makes it so that bread can come out from the earth. Hamotzi ahid ishtimoda darga tata, right? He is the one, right? Meaning the one that is well known, right? He's the one that is well known, the ishtimoda, right? He is able to bring out from something lowly, something which hasn't been seen before, and make it be able to be seen and make it something tangible that we can see. V'kul achad, but it is all one. In other words, that same one, and he's kind of fending off a potential objection here. What do you mean? You're differentiating between me and Ma. You're trying to tell me there's two different gods? Of course not. No, it's the same one that brings bread from the earth, for example, right? If you have that image, he also brings an entire world of existence into existence, right? That's the Ma, right? But he is the me. He is the one who is contained within it. He's the one who created it all, the one who we cannot access, cannot see, cannot sense, cannot even describe. And what is it that comes out? How many of these things? There's 600,000 primary stars, and each star has many other stars that come from it. There is no number. The number of galaxies and stars, etc., are beyond our ability to count. So this is what it means when it says hamotzi b'mispar tzva'am. Right there, he brings them out, because before there was just potential, and now there's all of this around us. L'chulam, to each and every one, it says shemos yikra, he calls them names. So on the simple level, one might think he gives each and every one of them a name. Bein inun shitin, right? All of them, all of those 600,000, and of course, Bein Kol Chelen Dilhon, and even all of those that come out of the 600,000, the spin-offs of the 600,000, B'Shem Yikra, they're called by name. My B'Shem Yikra, Itema Dikra Lon B'Shema Hason. If you think it means that he calls each and every one a name, Lavachu, that's not what it means. Dimkain Bishmomi Baile. It shouldn't have said Bishemos Yikra. It should have said Bishmo. He called each one by its name, if it was trying to tell us that each one had its own name. But rather, it means each one is called with the concept, the idea of names. At the time, right, when before it had a name, in other words, before it had someone who can look at it and say, look, I see that, and I'm going to give that a name, like we give names to the stars and things that we can see and feel, right? There was no name, and it was just called me. It was just the who. It was the God that we cannot experience. It was the God we cannot see. Even though within the original me, the original God, it was all there, the potential was all there, but before there was a name, there was no ma, right? I couldn't say what it was. There was nobody experiencing it, right? Kivan de bra Ela, but once God created Ela, these, he created the things that we can see and say, look at those, look at these, right? Vistalak bishmei, and now they have names, Vikre Elohim, and now that me has brought the Ela down into this world, and we can look up and say, oh, there's a God. Kidain b'chela dishma da apiklon b'shlimu, right? So now each and every one of those hosts has a name, and now they have reached their fulfillment. Vidahu b'shem yikra. That's what it means that they are all called by the name, right? Because now that their form is complete, and now that there are people that apprehend them and see them and can call them by something, can describe them and say, look, those are stars and suns and moons. We can see things, we can describe them. All of a sudden, now it's complete, and now there is an Elohim, there is a name. Bahu shem dilei kra, right? With this way, God pronounced his own name, right? Until when God was all alone by himself before there was a creation of the world, God didn't have a name, because a name is something that one being calls another. But once the creation was made, now we can look at it and see, oh, wow, there's God. I can look at creation and see God. Right? And now the essence of every single thing in this world can reach its fulfillment. That's what it means when it says, see, I have called him by a name. This is referring to Bezalel, the one who designed the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Adkarna Shmil is Kiyama Bezalel al Kiyum Yashlamuse. When I called him a name, now he's perfect. Now he's reached his completion, because we are all only complete. Even a human being like Bezalel is complete when others see that which he does and that which he can accomplish and see who he is. When we're all alone, when we're all by ourselves, then we are not complete. And to some extent, on some level, the Zohar is saying God himself was not complete until there was a creation, and there were beings in the creation that can look at the creation and call it names and say what it is and define what it is, and thereby understand and perceive the godliness that's within it. Thus completes the chapter 5. Actually, there's a little bit more. I'm sorry, I forget this. There's a little bit more. Merov onim. If we continue in the verse in Isaiah, there's from much strength. My merov onim. What does it mean that he has much strength? Da rish dargin. Right. This refers to the supreme level of all levels, the top level of all levels. The sliku bei kol ruusin vistalaku bei beorach satim. That all of the desires, Ru'usin, are all end there. Everything that we look, that we see, that we desire, everything that anyone in the entire world or anything, any being, spiritual or physical, right? That is the end of the line for what we are looking for, is what we are looking towards, right? Amitz koach, that's referring to the Rov Onim, the great strength. The Amitz Koach, he has tremendous amount of strength. Dorozo de Alma Ilah, this is the secret of the highest worlds. The Istalak b'Shem Elohim ki the Kamran, that which assumed the name upon creation of Elohim, like we explained. Ish lo nedar, which literally meant there's not a single person who's forgotten. Me'inun shitin ribu, from all the 600,000 diapik b'chela dishma that were brought out in strength in the heavens. Uvegin de ish lo nedar, and because not a single one of them is missing, every single one was brought out by that great and awesome strength, that great and awesome power. Right, b'chol asar demisu Yisrael, any place in the world, right? Where any person of Israel died, isanashu, and were punished b'chovayo because of their sins, ismenun v'lo adar me'inun. They have been counted and they haven't been forgotten from us. No matter how many times every single Jew that lived the entire history that died, even when they died of their sins, right? They're never forgotten. All of the 600,000 plus everything that came from the 600,000, that came from those 600,000, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to every being and creature in this entire universe, including, of course, every human being, right? Every single one was remembered and will be remembered. Shitin ribo afilu chad, right? Not out of those, not even one out of those 600,000 of 600,000, etc. Begin lemeve kola diukna chado, because it is all coming from one diukna, one form, one likeness, right? The likeness of God, which is present within this world. Just like up above, not a single person is forgotten. Not down here in this world, there's also not a single person forgotten. So Merovonim, from all the way up there, the highest of the highest of the highest, all the way up there, we've just now drew a connection to all the way down here to the smallest of the small. Not a single thing is forgotten, giving importance and specialness to every single creation, being special, being important, and not forgotten, and completely counted. Thus ends this chapter 5. I'm sorry, I almost finished it early without reading this last extremely powerful paragraph. I hope you enjoyed studying this together with me. Looking forward to studying chapter 6, and of course, the rest of this wonderful, incredible, amazing, and book that we simply have no words to describe. Please feel free to comment. If you have comments, comment on the video. I'll try my best to get back to as many as possible, or send me an email. Either way, have a wonderful, wonderful day.